Rich Gulf countries like the UAE have invested in expensive air defense shields, using a multi-layer defense network including systems like US-made THAAD missiles, Patriot and Pantsir S1 to track and intercept ballistic missiles and drones. But when Iran unleashed hundreds of drone strikes this weekend on Gulf Arab states, it still damaged US bases and critical infrastructure, even ripping through glitzy cities like Dubai, which are considered safe. Of course, this has presented a serious challenge to the Middle East's air defense system. This is because the drones Iran is using are cheap, even as cheap as $20,000 per drone. And intercepting them is far costlier, even with these expensive systems the Gulf nations have invested in. They're small, relatively difficult to intercept, and easy to produce at scale, and though they may not do as much physical damage as its arsenal of thousands of missiles, they did hit civilian airports, seaports and other key facilities, undermining the appearance of safety the Gulf has worked to maintain. More important, Iran has used large numbers of drones, or combined drone and missile strikes, to overwhelm the air defenses of the target countries. While Iran has a limited supply of ballistic missiles, it is believed to have an arsenal of many thousands of unmanned aerial vehicles and has the ability to produce them en masse. The attacks bear some of the hallmarks of how Russia has used Iranian drones in strikes in Ukraine for years, attacking key infrastructure in an attempt to psychologically wear down the opponent's population while imposing economic costs. Flying low and slow and producing a buzzing sound like a motorcycle in the distance before they explode on impact, Shahid drones became a symbol of Iran's global importance to allies such as Russia and China. Tehran even exported thousands of the aircraft to Russia and later helped build a factory in southern Russia for domestic production. Since it began using them in 2022, Russia has used Iranian-made drones including the Shahid 136 in waves upon waves of attacks targeting energy facilities and ports, often cutting the electricity and heating for many Ukrainians. This time, Iran used the drones to target sites including an American Navy base in Bahrain, airports in Abu Dhabi and Kuwait, high-rise towers in Dubai and Bahrain as well as seaports. At least 3 people were killed in strikes in the UAE and 1 in Oman. Gulf countries' proximity to Iran means those countries have less time to prepare for incoming drones. The attacks have triggered global travel chaos and threatened to cause a surge in oil prices, demonstrating Iran's strategy of hitting the soft underbelly of the global economy. Iran is now attempting to internationalize the conflict by piling pressure on US allies in the Gulf and inflicting economic pain on the West, analysts say. They have so far fired 541 drones at the UAE, 283 drones at Kuwait, 9 drones and 136 Shahid drones at Bahrain, 12 drones at Qatar and dozens of drones at Jordan, in addition to hundreds of missiles launched at those countries, according to official government statements. Israel separately said it intercepted over 50 Iranian drones, an easier feat since it is farther away from Iran and takes much longer for drones to get there. Developed by a company linked to Iran's paramilitary Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps, the earlier versions of the Shahid drone were deployed in the Middle East, including an attack on Saudi oil installations in 2019 that the kingdom and the US blamed on Iran. And now, Iran is continually building up its drone supply. The commander of Iran's army said in January that the armed forces received a new shipment of 1,000 drones. Iran's total production capacity is unclear, but a factory built in Russia with Iranian help is producing 18,540 drones a year, according to the Institute for Science and International Security, an institute that uses satellite images in its research on Iranian and Russian military capabilities. Drone manufacturing is simpler than missile production and therefore easier to regenerate, military analysts say. In addition to the Shahid 136, Iran also has stocks of earlier, cruder models of the Shahid that it can turn to. It took countries like Ukraine and Israel time to learn how to effectively defend against the threat of drones fired by adversaries. Israel initially struggled to thwart drones fired by Hezbollah in Lebanon, having spent years building its air defense systems to counter more traditional missile threats. It was initially using pricey systems such as Iron Dome and F-16 jet fighters to shoot down the cheaply made drones. Now Ukraine has learned how to detect Russian drones, for example, using cheap UAVs that can attack the Russian Shahid drones once they are identified. The Gulf isn't yet accustomed to being at war with Iran, and experts believe they will learn to defend more effectively if the war goes on. But for now, analysts say they need to build multi-layered defense systems that can handle drones like Ukrainians have done, because it is impossible to protect and defend every building in a city like Dubai or Abu Dhabi.